And the guy got up and said, we're all here because we're not all there. Well,
thank you so much for coming this evening. And before we begin, we have a bonus tonight. Not only do we have the former senator, or just newly former senator from Wyoming, but Mrs. Ann Simpson as well. Please welcome Mrs. Simpson. Well, we are so pleased to welcome Senator Alan Simpson to the Tattered Cover this evening. Senator Simpson is here to celebrate his new book, Right in the Old Gazoo. Most of us here in the West need no definition of the word gazoo, but apparently this is a term that the nation's media spent a good deal of time puzzling over after Senator Simpson used it while chiding them. Well, that was not the first time he tangled with the Fourth Estate, and now he has written a book about some encounters with the press, not only involving himself, but others in the public eye. He has some opinions about journalism and how it is practiced today, and also some suggestions for improvements. He is not alone in questioning the media. Many citizens also are puzzled and distressed at their tactics, and so this book is sure to expand the debate over the influence of the press. Although he is now retired after serving as U.S. Senator from Wyoming from 1979 to 1997, he will continue to participate in political life, only this time as visiting professor at Harvard University's John F. Kennedy School of Government. There, I'm sure...
Somebody fainted there.
There, I'm sure he will use his wit and wisdom to instruct about public service and responsibility, as he has done in this delightful book. Please welcome Senator Alan Simpson.
Thank you.
Are you turned on?
Yes, I am. Margaret, thank you very much. And I have, this is not my idea. You see these wires? This is a possible electrocution. No, I don't know what it is, but they said turn them on. So it is a great treat to be here, and I'm here with LWA right here. And you're saying LWA. You see, in political life, we who are the so-called principals are always introduced, and now Senator Al Simpson and his lovely wife Ann. So years ago she said, why not just have a little thing called LWA. I'll wear a bolo tie. So she has this wonderful bolo tie, LWA, lovely wife Ann. Well, it has been an experience as we go into a new part of our lives with regard to this book. I had never done a book. I was asked to write this book. I never went around to a publisher saying, I have a manuscript. You must see it. It's the greatest thing since the last Pulitzer. I didn't do that. I got into a tussle one night in New York at Tavern on the Green with Leslie Stahl, Sam Donaldson, Bob Herbert for a charitable foundation. And you know, sometimes you're hot, sometimes you're not. Boy, I was really slamming it in. I was asking them, while they covered the Gulf War in their intrepid way, if they were all sleeping out in the desert with the soldiers in the sand. with the wind howling through their dentures. And they said, "Why, that's an unfair question." I said, "No, you were all in downtown Baghdad or wherever you could get and covering it from Saudi Arabia from a hotel." And I kind of was winging it along. Then he took a little poll after the thing was over, who won and who lost, and the poll of the audience was that the media had lost 17-1. Because they weren't exactly covering that war like Ernie Pyle would have covered it, or Edward Murrow would have covered it. And the dust-up I got into with Peter Arnett was about the fact, I said, I must have missed something here. You're in the hotel in downtown Baghdad, put up every night by the enemy that is sworn to make this the mother of all battles, and dragging our people and torturing them and putting that on television and destroying oil fields and the entire ecology of the area. And that's news. If that's news, the drinks are on me. I got in a lot of trouble, digging my way out of that rubble, which I have done many times in public life. They came to me and said, "Would you write a book about your relations with the media and the First Amendment and yourself?" I said, "I've never written a book." They said, "It has to be all you. You have to do it yourself." And I thus launched into this project. It was to take a year. It took 5 because I had seen what had happened to Jim Wright and Newt Gingrich as they wrote books. Therefore, felt that I would write all of mine off campus, which I did. All of them were, all of the words and all of the work was off campus. So there's the product. It's not a bitter book, but it is, it's me, and it's real. And the interesting thing about it, there are journalists who are remarkable people. I mentioned them in that book. Good people, and I give them credit. But the boneheaded ones, and there are plenty of those, will come up to you and say, "Oh, I know who you are. And I'm very, very disturbed to hear that you're writing a book about the media." I'll say, "Why?" "Well, we wonder what you want to do to curb or limit or restrict us." I said, "I haven't the slightest desire to curb or limit or restrict you. I just intend to stick it in your ear and out the other." To which, and I said, "It's a sick idea. It's called the First Amendment belongs to me too." So I said, when the book hits, I don't want to hear anybody throwing the tattered cloak of the First Amendment around their shoulders and heading out into the bitter, howling winds. I don't want to hear anything about the chilling effect. I want to hear about the old phrase, "the public's right to know," or the wonderful phrase of all times, which is, "we stick by our story." Isn't that a dandy? And what they really mean is we stick by anybody who ever wrote a story. And then I talk in this book about plagiarism among themselves. I talk about, I thought Kennedy, I should have let Kennedy do a blurb on the back of the book. He said he rubbed salt in old wounds, many of them his own. Shocking statement. But it was a fun book to write, and Anne, we missed a few Thanksgivings and Christmases, and she said, "When are you going to get it done?" And so we're out on the book tour, and I'll be teaching at Harvard as a visiting professor. There were only 2 conditions upon that. They asked me to come. Great honor, great privilege indeed. I said just 2 things. I get to prepare all the content of the course, all mine. And we're going to talk about immigration, and we're going to talk about the Clean Air Act. We're going to talk about judicial nominations. We're going to talk about Social Security. We're going to talk about Medicare. If young ladies and gentlemen, if anybody in this room or in this audience between 18 and 35 can't figure out what's going to happen to them when they're 65, you are goofy. You will be picking grit with the chickens when you're 65 unless you do something to offset the power of the senior citizens organizations. They will overpower you. They will render you impotent. So that's another issue. God, I can't wait to get into that. And I'll be also joining the group called the Third Millennium in New York, a group of young people between 18 and 35, as I say, who are not anti-AARP, not anti-senior, but pro-young people. We'll be out on the speakers circuit, but the book tour, and I'm going to clam up, the book tour is bizarre. Because I have never been involved in a situation where you walk in and they say, I'm learning these things. Would you come in and sign stock? Well, I thought, well, I know what stock is. Sheep, cattle. So I go in and sign stock, except there's 25 people there waiting for me to sign a book. And I'm the kind of guy that writes a note in a book, like, who are you? And tell me what you do, and I'll put it on there. And then they come along and kick you in the leg, say, come on, you're only doing that many. You got. And I said, yeah, but I'm in Wyoming. So the other day at the Barnes & Noble bookstore, I was there from 2 to 7. My arm is gone. And tonight I cannot have a chair with an arm. I'll have to have something that I'll just have to loosely go. But I tell you, I'll finish every book and I'll write a note and I'll love it, because the thing I loved in collecting, and I'm an old collector, was when I waited in line for a guy's autograph, I just didn't want it to say, "Hi, Fred." So it's going to take a little while, and I'll be the last dog out of the place. And it is a great and wondrous experience, and I only have one staff person left. Right here. And the other day she said, just a second, Al. Don't give me that junk. I'm not one of your staff. I'm the last one, the last indeed. So, and we in politics know there's a biblical reference to our work. Jacob died leaning on his staff. And so, with my only staff member and taking any questions that are too hot, whatever you want, why, fire up any questions if you wish. Yes?
Been waiting years for you to run for presidency. I did, then when you retired, I thought, oh, no, he never will.
No, he never will.
Never will.
And he never wanted to in the beginning. I never, ever went into politics to want to be president. I was very honored to be the assistant leader of Bob Dole for 10 years, and I am a legislator. I love legislating, and I was good at that. And I was right at the forefront of legal and illegal immigration, the complete rewrite of the Clean Air Act, the Superfund legislation, conference committees, judicial nominations, veterans issues. That's what I loved, and that's what I did. Never wanted to be president. The very things that attract people to you if you're thinking of the presidency are the things that would have cremated me. I've taken on every senior group, every veterans group. I can just see the campaign. They'd say, God almighty, give me the raw meat to tear that guy to shreds, which they would have. But that's another story. That never entered my bosom. So, take any questions except from Bullich. Oh, no, excuse me. Oh, yes. Yes, sir. Or yes.
Neil Yulovich, after a particularly controversial run of events, there was a profile in the New Yorker concerning your career and many of the events. How did you feel about that profile?
In my line of work, I always say it could have been a hell of a lot worse. I thought it was very charitable, and the author of that article visited with me a long time, if that's the one you're speaking about in the Sunday supplement section.
No. New Yorker magazine.
Oh, that one. Hell, that was just a case of, that was easy to explain, and I explain it in the book. When the author started, John Newhouse, why, I was the toast of the town. And he came and I remember he'd done a piece on Tom Foley, a man I greatly respect. And I said, Dan, boy, I said, you know, if he would do one on me like he did on Foley, I mean, this is the cats. So we visited, you know, relaxed days out in the hills, and he said it was going to come out in February, and I could tell it was going to be a marvelous puff piece. And then I got into it with Peter Arnett. I didn't hear from him again for a while. Then he showed up and he said, can you explain this to me? What happened here? Well, I knew right then I was headed for the bow wows. So I said, well, I just got a belly full of that crap. Other than that, I wish I could explain it in a more articulate fashion. But I don't understand how a guy can say he's a reporter when everything he says is being censored by the enemy government who's sworn to have the mother of battles with our people. I must have missed something. I'm of the old school, Second World War as a kid. So then I didn't hear any more, and finally I thought maybe they're going to dump the thing. That'd be good too. And then I got into the Bork hearings. Maybe Bork was before, but anyway, then Clarence Thomas. And I never heard from him again until he showed up and said, this is very troubling. This is one of the most troubling. If you can explain to me what has happened here from this remarkable career, just suddenly what? And I said, well, are you a reporter now or are you a shrink? So he wanted to delve deeply into my psyche, find out how I had suddenly crumbled under this appalling Washington scene. And I said, I had a belly full of that crap too. I said, I watched them take a man named Robert Bork, and get this one, this is 30 seconds. Robert Bork was on the bench for 5.5 years. He did 104 opinions, and none of them were ever overturned by a superior court, and 6 of his dissents became majority opinions of the United States Supreme Court. And in front of my eyes, they turned him into a gargoyle, a sexist, racist, invader of the bedroom, sterilizer of women, poll taxer. And I thought, I can't believe this. How would I feel if this were happening to me? And then along came Clarence Thomas, and the radical group said, we're going to Bork him too. And I said, over my dead body. And that's when you can get in a lot of trouble. When you think, and I am an emotional man, passionate man, that's why I married something like that. And I thought to myself, how would I feel if this were happening to me? And if journalists would try that one on, if they can, I don't think their sensitivities lead them to anything like that, but they might have a different view of how it really is for the rest of us. And so the New Yorker piece came out, and hell, I knew what it was going to be. It said, this is the end of Al Simpson. He was a good egg, and now he's a dink. He was a sweet guy, and now he's an evil monster, and on, and all the crap that went with it. He'll never be reelected again. And the next time I ran for assistant leader, I received a vote of 2-1, more than I had ever received before from my colleagues. And everything in the article that was negative was anonymous. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is bullshit. The media will hang on that one as long as they continue to use anonymous sources. Anonymous sources are often, don't throw anything, could be the reporter themselves. And they say, do you mean you would say that I said, yeah, you bet. That's just exactly what I said. Or else you go find a person who has the same thought you do, and then you interview them, and you know what they're going to say because they're in your Rolodex, and that's the anonymous source. So it was, and he took some shots, and as I say, the ones that were there that were really negative were anonymous, just as they always are. I've never seen an anonymous source that said, this is a sweet guy. I just heard my wife clear her throat. Did you hear that? It was a very, almost imperceptible. It's like a dog. But I heard it, and so I'm stopped right there, and takes the next question. But yes.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for your service to the government. This morning, I had the pleasure of being guest speaker at the Global Republican Club, and I was speaking on the subject of immigration. And at that particular meeting, I was giving the folks the advance warning of who was to be your replacement. Not your protege, John Kyle, but Spencer Abraham will take over that spot. For those in the country interested in immigration reform, we feel it's kind of a sad thing that has happened there. I wonder if you have any comments.
Spencer Abraham is a great young man. He's the new senator from Michigan. John Kyle, of course, from the state most affected, which is Arizona. And Spencer Abraham is a very remarkable adversary because I tried to do things which were based on the Barbara Jordan Commission report. I took 80% of what she was suggesting to do with legal immigration. And it's very simple what we must do. You cannot allow any longer to have one U.S. citizen bring in 30, 40, 50, 60, or 70 derivative relatives who come here with no skills, no language ability, who simply come under the family preference system. And she was saying, and I backed her totally, that you must slow or freeze or have a breathing space in legal immigration and slow it to about 650,000 a year. Next year it will be, this year it will be 1 million a year. Legal immigration. As I say, many of them with no skills, no abilities. Don't throw anything. I've been through all the crap on that one. Racism, you know, emotion, fear, guilt, racism is how you either kill or pass a bill in Washington. Period. So here you have a situation where Spencer would get up and talk about the Statue of Liberty, and this one is very important to him, and I can't argue it at all. He represents the largest Lebanese population outside of Lebanon in Michigan, and he is Lebanese. And he feels very strongly about family reunification, so you're going to see nothing done with legal immigration restraints, very little more done with illegal immigration because we did a pretty tough bill this trip. The only thing that will happen is that his ranking member will be Dianne Feinstein. And she ain't going to let that issue go away because she comes from the state most affected. And on that subcommittee, I assume, will be John Kyle. And the two of them will carry forward the issue. But you can't just put this one away by talking about the Statue of Liberty. That won't get you there. I love the words of Emma Lazarus, the Sephardic Jew, a lonely, reclusive woman whose words will live forever. But that ain't what we're talking about. We're not talking about that. Yes.
I was going to ask you if you, sort of in contrast to what this gentleman over here said, do you see the act that you passed, the Simpson-Rodino Act, as a success or failure over the time that it's been in effect in its application? And I guess the other question I had is where do we go from here to try to reform immigration in this country?
Well, the Simpson-Rodino bill would have worked much better if we had done something with the penalties for fraudulent documents. Fraudulent documents are a cottage industry, so obviously nothing could really be done with regard to the correction under the original bill. I used to carry them with me for $100. A guy went out in the street in East LA, and I had a California ID card with my picture, Turlock, California address, and a fake Social Security. You could get that anywhere. Within 500 yards of this building, with the proper bucks, you can pick up a passport, you can pick up a Social Security card, you can pick up a birth certificate. That's the breeder document that really gets you into the system. And so obviously what we were doing could not work. Under the new bill are heavy penalties for those who manufacture, promote, pass, so on, fraudulent documents, very tough penalties. But no, it didn't work because of the fact that when you get into that one, then you're into Orwell and Nazi Germany and all the rest. You see, that you don't mean you're talking about a national ID, are you? I said, no, I never said that. But it would be some type of more secure instrument, either a driver's license or perhaps a call-in system or whatever, and it would be presented or used by not just people who look foreign, but by bald-headed Anglos like me, too. You could never get that message across. Again, emotion, fear, guilt, racism. Yes, sir.
I got here a little early tonight. I picked up a bargain book. Bill Bradley's book. You're in there 4 times. Is he in your book?
Bill wrote a bigger book. My editors came and said, Simpson, you are the most verbose poop we've ever dealt with. And you're going to clean up your book because it'll never sell in that present form. Bill Bradley is a friend of mine, and I care deeply about him. We have never played basketball together, but he and Ernestine are very dear to us. They've been in Cody, Wyoming with us. We have been to Barnegat Light with them. He is a special friend, and his daughter Teresa and our daughter Susie, and that's the way I have always been. I've never been really a hero of the right of my party because I always flunked the central test, and that's abortion. I've always been pro-choice, never changed my mind, ever. I don't go out and preach about it. In fact, I don't even think men should vote on that issue. So that will not earn you brownie points from the far right. And so they say, who are you? I said, I don't know, I've voted 10,000 times in 31 years. You go figure out who the hell I am. Figuring out who's a conservative and who's a liberal, forget it. We all are liberal in some way. I've been called a right-wing cucko and a left-wing pinko, and I'm the same guy. Man, you've never called me anything, and you're wonderful. Anyway, that's Bill Bradley. We were in really one night on Nightline. They extended the program for 2 hours or something into the 2 a.m. It was on Anita Hill, and boy, Bradley and I were at it. Boy, and we were at it. And when it was over, Eleanor Clift, I remember, and boy, there's a biased reporter if you can find one. And then to think that a person like that can write a column and then get on television and say that they're an unbiased analyst. I mean, who believes that? Forget it. But I have made my peace with Eleanor. But anyway, Bradley and I were steaming, and he came up behind me while I'm really cooking then. It's 2 in the morning, and it's just coming out of my ears. Bradley comes up behind. I can always hear him. He's usually jabbing me in the leg, you know, or something. He said, I got to go get some milk for Teresa, and I don't have any money. And I did just like this. I never turned around. I says, here's $10, you cheap bastard. To which he took it and got milk for his daughter. And we've laughed about that, and I think that incident is in his book. Because I've always been one who believes that you cannot function by being 100% partisan. Cannot function. My ranking members in my first year as a majority in the Senate for 2 years were Gary Hart, Al Cranston, and Ted Kennedy. Now you tell me how as a 2-year freshman that I'm supposed to do things by sitting there every day jabbing them in the chin. That ain't the way you do the nation's business. And it's never the way I did the nation's business, which will get you hell from the other side. You mean you talked to Ted Kennedy? I said, yeah, I've even eaten dinner with him. Talk to Al Cranston? Yeah, I do. He's my ranking member. What am I supposed to do? Give him the ICE treatment? The worst thing that can happen in America is to watch the parties give each other the ICE treatment. It's the worst thing that can happen in a marriage, too. Try it. It's the worst thing that can happen with nations. Try it. So that's something I've never done. As Ann always says, even when we're arguing, we're communicating. very important. But yeah, he's a wonderful friend of mine, Bill Bradley. Yes, sir.
Do you think that this talk about cooperation in the upcoming Congress will sort of fade into the usual bitterness, or what do you see ahead on that front?
What I see is that Newt Gingrich and Bill Clinton are wounded. They're like a couple of great big plump Canadian geese winging over the barley patch in the evening while these guys are just firing up the volley after volley. Yeah. And it's hitting some of the feathers and some of it is sinking, but in the course of that, nobody's going to quit doing that to both of them, because they both have done a thing which has harmed them. And watch Trent Lott. He will emerge in the next year and a half, or maybe sooner, as the most important political figure in America. Very able, very savvy, very bright, very able to work with others. He won't get hung up with Tom Daschle. He and Daschle will work together because they know everybody's watching. And then remember this, the media again has already portrayed this as some type of fake thing, that this won't work. And then go back to something that happened for 2 years, and all you heard about was gridlock. Well, while you were hearing about gridlock from the media, we were doing a line item veto, unfunded mandates, a telecommunications bill that was sweeping, a farm bill that dug into the support system, immigration reform, on and on and on, health care, by huge bipartisan majorities, and you would never know that. All you heard was gridlock, gridlock, gridlock. Who's feeding you that? The media, who are more interested in conflict, confusion, and controversy than they are in clarity, period. Yes, I see your neck muscles, right? Oh, yes. No, go ahead. Yes.
How do you think Trent Lott could do as a presidential nominee?
Somehow I don't see him wanting to do that. I think, I don't know, I may get a call from him saying, I wanted to do that, you should have said that. But no, I don't see Trent. I see Trent as wanting to make a record as one of the most remarkable majority leaders of the Senate. And I think he has that potential and that ability. And he's got people on the right and the left that fall in behind him. I think that we will find the Republican candidates will be people perhaps Colin Powell, perhaps Bill Bennett, perhaps that remarkable governor of Texas, one George Bush. Who knows? I don't know, but I don't think Trent would be in that mix. I think he would choose not to. Yes? Hmm?
Why is the abortion issue focused more on the Republican Party than the Democratic Party? Why does the media always make that issue for the Republican Party?
Well, it's not my view, but that recent survey of the media that, 67% of them voted for Clinton, or 68 or 73, and 16 for Bush, and 6 for Perot, and this is their feeling. You remember the governor of Pennsylvania, Casey, who was pro-life and wanted to speak on that at the Democratic National Convention, and they shuffled him off to Buffalo. He never got to speak on that issue. At least on our party, we get into the discussion. I think that the issue is, they say there are no Republicans who are pro-choice. There were plenty of us who were pro-choice. Nancy Kassebaum, Olympia Snowe, Cohen, Chafee, I could go on and on. So it's too bad, and here's the best way to describe it. I never served in my delegation for 18 years with anybody who held my view. Malcolm Wallop, Dick Cheney, Craig Thomas, Barbara Cuban, and we never talked about it for 10 seconds in 18 years because we respected each other. And we better start doing that in the Republican Party or we're history. We better respect people who have the other view and not make that the litmus test of the Republican Party, or we will continue to destroy ourselves. I watched it in the Bush campaign. I watched it in the Dole campaign. Women between 18 and 30 in droves dumped our party for that reason. alone, good conservative people alone. That can't be. Yes, sir.
My second home is up in Johnson County, Wyoming, and I mention that to you because I have a deep appreciation for ranch land and farmland, and my concern is that foreign investors can buy this land and that developers can develop it. What is your prediction and your view as to how we can protect the food basket of our country and protect the way of life that deals with that kind of experience?
I don't know, because if you're a true Republican, you believe in choice and the ability to better yourself. If a person wants to come to Johnson County and buy property, you're talking about perhaps corporations or something of that nature. The Dutch corporation bought one of our big ranches in Park County. It went into the hands of a Swiss corporation. People are irritated by that. They're puzzled by that. But I don't think you can limit in any way the ability of people to deal with property. That's a true right of privacy, and it's kind of a pull up the drawbridge philosophy in Wyoming. Once you get your 5-acre tract, you want to go to the zoning commission and cut them off. And that isn't what it's about either. So that was certainly a non-answer there. Moving on swiftly. Yes, that was almost, yes, your question. Yes, sir?
What would you suggest that we could do to counterattack the AARP? Incidentally, my wife and I are senior citizens.
Oh, God, I'm glad you asked that. This man is not a plant. He is here. I do not know this man's name. Let me tell you, somebody better get in and offset the AARP. Now, I tell you, listen to this. I have offered to debate any living or dead member of the AARP, any officer, any state chairman, any minion out in the far-flung reaches, because I'll tell you what the AARP is. Big business. They get 3% of every premium from Prudential. That's $106 million a year. So imagine what the full premium of that. They get 3%. That's 106. They get the 106. Imagine what Prudential makes by using the AARP. They lease a building in downtown Washington for $17 million a year. $17 million a year on a 10-year lease with a 10-year renewal. They are 1.5% of all mailings under that permit in the United States of America. And anybody who's 50 knows that. Once you get to be 50, you are flooded by the AARP. They have $345 million in the bank in T-bills. They were getting $86 million a year in grants from the federal government. We cut them off on that. And they settled a case with the Postal Service because they were slipping in that permit their insurance promotional stuff. They settled that case for $134 million and just wrote a check. Now that's big business in my mind. That's $8 a year dues. But the worst part of it is read their pamphlet of what they want legislatively. Read it carefully. And in it is one provision that would break this country to its knees, and it says long-term health care for everyone in the U.S. regardless of your net worth or your income, including hospice, all the works. Now that to me is an absolutely unresponsible organization. I intend to take them on in any forum, anywhere, anytime. And then there's the National Committee for the Preservation of Social Security and Medicare, Martha McSteen and her loyal soldiers of the night. When you get their mailing and it says return addressee will pay the postage, put a rock in the envelope. Or a tiny piece of rebar or lead or some old silver, and send it back to the poor wretched souls, because they would have you believe that everybody over 65 is eaten out of a garbage can. And it is so phony. And these are people who will jump in their BMW in Sun City and drive 100 miles to get to the Perkins restaurant for the 10% discount. And stand there in the movie line while they park their Caddy Seville, say, Ma and I'd like to get into the movie for seniors, you know. Yeah, you know, but come on. Somebody's got to wake up. Funny, but it ain't funny. Let me give you the 1-minute drill. Don't throw anything, Margaret. I'm going to sign all these books. Listen to this one. Grasp the gravity of this. Part B premiums in Medicare are for physician reimbursement and durable goods. Right now, the beneficiary is paying only 25% of that premium, and the people in the kitchen of the restaurant next door are paying the other 75%. Got it? If that's America, I must have missed something. So what we were trying to do when we closed the government, it said that the beneficiary was paying 31% of that. Now we're talking about peanuts, because the whole premium is $180 a month. And in your Medicare, if you're on it, it says $46.10 or $47 for Part B premium. That's 1/4 of the premium, and it was at 31%, and it was going to go back to 25. We said, we can't let it go back to 25. You got to leave it at 31. The damn system's going broke. And Clinton said, oh, we can't do that to the seniors. So for $9 a month, we shut down the government. Boy, we took the heat. But right now today, guys on golden parachutes making 50 grand a year in retirement are paying 25% of the premium on Part B, and Joe Sixpack is paying 75%. So I really don't want to see too many more articles about fairness in America. I'm tired of that. God, I love that. Bring them sons. Oh, are there any of them out there? Where are they? Oh, God, yes. What? Yes, I'm... Duke, I've said I'd never take a question to you. We played basketball against this man from Mopolis High School, the Mopolis Bobcats and the Cody Bronx. Yes. Duke, what is it?
I wonder if you could tell us a little more about the third millennium and their projects for the future. I think there's a lot of young people here. They're really good.
Duke, let me leave you the card. I think I have it. Their card is a typical young person's card. There's no logo on it, no nothing, just a website. And it says, we believe in young people. We're not against old people. We know that you need to know what's going to happen to you with Social Security and Medicare. Send, you know, WWP. And they're marvelous. They're in New York. They charge $9 a year dues. They're not ugly. They're not evil. They're wondrous young people who are really trying to educate their own. And the other day, a town meeting, here comes some guy, cap on backwards, you know, pants hanging down over his neck. He said, you know, he's right out of Beavis and Butthead, you know. Hey, Simpson. And he's giving me the business. He said, who speaks for us? Big boy. I said, hell, we gave you the right to vote when you're 18 and only 15% of you use it. Speak for yourself. If you can't figure that out, you're history. Oh, yeah, okay, man. Yeah. So they'll be shuffling off into a new coil. Well, you want me to quit? Do you clear your throat? Anyway, good heavens, it's an adventure. I will sign books and be right here to do that. Thank you for your courtesy and your attention. You have a low folding chair. Oh, there's the chair right there.
Well, I don't mean to contradict the senator, but I really didn't want him to quit. But I think people would like their book signed, and everyone have an opportunity to say hello and thank you so much. That was just wonderful. Thank you.